Taurus Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 1. House-based issues and lifelong themes. Houses 1 to 4. First house, Taurus itself, the sensual seeker of stability. Taurus rising brings Venus's graceful, receptive, and beauty-loving qualities to the forefront. As a fixed earth sign, it emphasizes persistence, sensuality, and the love of comfort. But Venus as a passive, conciliatory graha gives the native a tendency to prioritize harmony over self-assertion. While this creates charm and a pleasing personality, it can also lead to internal suppression, especially in relationships where stronger personalities dominate. The constitution tends to be slow to anger, but stubborn, with good physical endurance and a love of routine. This house activates at ages 1, 13, 25, 37, often triggering themes around body image, self-worth, and personal identity. Second house, Gemini, the art of persuasion and financial agility. Gemini in the second house gives Taurus Lagna a communicative, curious, and commercially minded approach to resources. Ruled by Mercury, which is friendly to Venus, this placement creates an intelligent connection to money, language, and nourishment. There is often a natural talent for speech, storytelling, and writing, and a tendency to use intellect to generate income. The love for food is also prominent, as Venus rules both the Lagna and the sixth house of diet, while Mercury rules the second. Depending on planetary strength, this can make the native either a refined connoisseur or an indulgent overeater. This house activates at ages 2, 14, 26, 38, and typically brings shifts in speech, family karma, or financial conditions. Third house, Cancer, the emotional communicator with cautious courage. Cancer, ruled by the moon, governs the third house of Taurus rising, bringing emotional depth to matters of courage, communication, and siblings. The mind is sensitive and intuitive in its approach to close relationships, often with a deep emotional bond to siblings. However, this can also lead to moodiness in expression or hesitation to assert oneself unless emotionally secure. The native's courage fluctuates with their inner emotional state, and their communication tends to carry emotional undertones. Artistic writing or caring speech can be strengths here. This house activates at ages 3, 15, 27, 39, often tied to learning, personal voice, or sibling relationships. Fourth house, Leo, prestige and pressure in the heart of the home. Leo in the fourth house introduces the sun's authoritative and status-conscious energy into the domain of home, mother, and emotional security. Taurus rising individuals may take pride in their home, heritage, or family reputation, but may also experience dominance or high expectations from maternal figures. Emotional warmth is vital, but there may be hidden power struggles or ego clashes in domestic life. Venus and the Sun are not naturally friendly, so emotional peace can be disturbed when image, control, or pride becomes central themes in the household. This house activates at ages 4, 16, 28, 40, often correlating with relocations, real estate, or emotional upheaval rooted in the family. Taurus Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 5 to 8. Fifth house, Virgo, sharp intellect, low fertility, and mental precision. Virgo in the fifth house brings Mercury's discernment and critical thinking into the domain of children, creativity, and intelligence. For Taurus rising, this house often shows sharp analytical power and a capacity for writing, especially with Mercury ruling both the second and fifth. However, Virgo is a barren sign, and Venus, the Lagna Lord, is debilitated here, often leading to reduced fertility, trouble with children, or emotional disappointment in romance. Creativity may be intellectual or technical rather than emotional or expressive. Yet the exaltation of Mercury here offers strong mental agility and clarity, especially in practical or commercial endeavors. This house activates at ages 5, 17, 29, 41, highlighting key periods in education, romance, or dealings with children. Sixth house, Libra, luxury, food, and the battle for balance. Libra in the sixth house places Venus in a difficult position as both the Lagna Lord and the ruler of disease, competition, and service. This dual rulership complicates matters. Taurus natives may struggle to reconcile their love for harmony with the confrontational nature of the sixth house. Food habits become a central concern, often leading to indulgence, digestive issues, or overly luxurious preferences. Relationships too may suffer, as Venus here connects the themes of love with enmity and debt. Whether Taurus becomes a refined gourmet or a compulsive eater depends heavily on planetary strength. This house activates at ages 6, 18, 30, 42, and often reflects imbalances in diet, work conflicts, or chronic health issues. Sta's 7th house, Scorpio, power struggles and passion in partnerships. Scorpio in the 7th house brings Mars, the aggressive fiery planet, into the heart of relationships for this Venus-ruled rising. Mars and Venus are natural enemies, and the aggressive red Mars tends to overpower the conciliatory white Venus. Taurus individuals often suppress their individuality in an attempt to preserve peace, which may lead to emotional burnout or resentment. Relationships can be passionate but volatile, and the native may attract controlling or intense partners. Since Mars also rules the 12th house, partnerships may be tied to subconscious fears, foreign influences, or karmic baggage. This house activates at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, and frequently marks relationship highs and lows or marriage-related turning points. 8th house, Sagittarius, crisis, expansion, and the inner philosopher. Sagittarius in the 8th house, ruled by Jupiter, governs transformation, inheritance, and the hidden realms. Jupiter also rules the 11th house, connecting gains and losses in unusual karmic ways. Taurus Lagna may experience financial fluctuations, crisis-induced wisdom, or unexpected support from in-laws. There can also be subconscious resistance to letting go of control, making the process of interchange slow but eventually profound. If Jupiter is strong, the individual gains maturity through spiritual insight after loss. If weak, it may lead to reckless optimism in risky matters. This house activates at ages 8, 20, 32, 44, and these years tend to bring events of psychological transformation, legacies, or hidden truths rising to the surface. Taurus Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 9 to 12. 9th house, Capricorn, disciplined faith, earned wisdom, and conservative beliefs. Capricorn in the 9th house brings Saturn's grounded and rule-bound energy to the domain of Dharma, Father, and higher wisdom. Taurus rising individuals are often dutiful and methodical in their beliefs. They tend to respect tradition and may follow structured spiritual or educational paths. Since Saturn is friendly to Venus, this placement supports long-term philosophical growth, especially in professions tied to law, structure, or discipline. However, early life may show delays or doubts regarding faith or paternal support. The pursuit of meaning matures slowly, often becoming more solid after setbacks. This house activates at ages 9, 21, 33, 45, and usually brings karmic guidance, long-distance travel, or renewed belief systems. 10th house, Aquarius, detached authority and innovative career paths. Aquarius in the 10th house places Saturn and Rahu in the area of karma, profession, and reputation. This creates a mix of structure and unconventional ambition. Taurus natives may follow unusual career paths or enter modern, science-driven, or social reform professions. They are disciplined yet inventive, and while they respect authority, they often seek to redefine it. Saturn's influence promotes long-term growth, while Rahu's presence can lead to sudden leaps or unexpected public recognition. This house often signals karmic responsibility in career and public life, especially through large institutions or technology. Activated at ages 10, 22, 34, 46, this house marks significant career turns or leadership challenges. Saturn 11th house, Pisces, dreamy gains and subtle disappointments. Pisces in the 11th house brings Jupiter's expansive but emotional wisdom into the realm of ambitions, networks, and social impact. While Jupiter is a benefic, its rulership of both the 8th and 11th houses creates a subtle tension between hidden losses and outward gains. Taurus rising individuals may have idealistic dreams and a desire for spiritual fulfillment through community, but they must be cautious of illusions or emotional entanglements in friendships. If strong, this house brings charitable networks, creative collaborations, and gains through compassion-based work. If weak, it can bring betrayal or confusion through social circles. Activation years 11, 23, 35, 47 tend to shape hopes, friendships, and material goals. 12th house, Aries, volcanic retreats, karmic expenditure, and the fight to let go and to let go. Aries in the 12th house brings Mars, the enemy of Venus, into the terrain of loss, retreat, and moksha. This creates internal conflict for Taurus rising, as the soul seeks peace while the subconscious fights battles. Mars also rules the seventh house, linking relationships to karmic endings. There may be aggression in sleep, suppressed anger in intimate settings, or sudden breakages in foreign or spiritual pursuits. Taurus natives may be drawn to high-energy retreats or martial disciplines as forms of release. Emotional and financial expenditure needs careful management. This house activates at ages 12, 24, 36, 48, and these years often bring solitude, spiritual detachment, or sudden departures from old patterns. Virgo Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 1. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 1 to 4. First house, Virgo itself, the analytical servant and detail-driven identity. Virgo rising brings Mercury's discerning, calculating, and practical nature into the ascendant. The native is often shy, meticulous, health-conscious, and inclined towards service, purity, and order. Mercury is exalted here, strengthening intelligence, speech, and technical skill. However, when Venus is placed in the Lagna, as lord of the second and ninth, its debilitation weakens emotional integration, causing overthinking and critical self-judgment. Virgo's symbolic maiden carries grain and fire, serving others with discipline, but not necessarily inclined toward progeny or personal indulgence. The native is often more head-driven than heart-led, preferring logic over emotion. Activation years 1, 13, 25, 37 often bring intellectual sharpening, health events, or periods of introspection and skill mastery. Second house, Libra, polished speech, aesthetic values, and food sensitivity. Libra in the second house brings Venus's refined energy into matters of wealth, family, and speech. Virgo natives often have elegant or diplomatic speech and a refined palate. However, since Venus is debilitated in Virgo, the first house, this causes contradictions between desire and self-control, leading to fastidiousness around food and difficulty in emotional expression. The individual may speak beautifully, but struggle with emotional vulnerability or warmth. There may also be a tendency toward perfectionism in financial habits or family values. Activation years 2, 14, 26, 38 often involve dietary changes, aesthetic pursuits, or reevaluations of personal and family values. Third house, Scorpio, incisive intellect and contrarian expression. Scorpio in the third house makes Mars the ruler of both the third and eighth houses, both associated with mental force, secrets, and intensity. This double rulership gives Virgo Lagna a sharp, probing mind that thinks against the grain. The native is incisive, contrarian, and drawn to taboo or hidden knowledge. They resist conventional thought and often communicate in a bold, sometimes cutting manner. However, Mars is an enemy of Mercury, and its rulership over the eighth house also links the mind to hidden fears, obsessive thoughts, and possible psychological strain. Activation years 3, 15, 27, 39 may bring intellectual breakthroughs, conflict with siblings, or sharp learning curves through crisis or courage. Nush fourth house, Sagittarius, idealistic roots and structured emotional beliefs. Sagittarius in the fourth house brings Jupiter's expansive, truth-seeking nature into the area of home, mother, and emotional grounding. Virgo Lagna natives often come from homes that emphasized values, faith, or education. There may be philosophical or religious rigidity in family life, and the mother may be wise but emotionally distant or moralistic. The native may idealize their emotional security or long for a more inspiring domestic setting. Since Jupiter also rules the seventh house, there's often a karmic link between emotional roots and future partnerships. Activation years 4, 16, 28, 40 bring real estate transitions, family revelations, or moral realignments shaped by upbringing and cultural legacy. Virgo Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 5 to 8. Fifth house, Capricorn, cautious creativity and emotional reserve in parenthood. Capricorn in the fifth house places Saturn, the cold and disciplined graha, over creativity, romance, and progeny. Saturn here is uncomfortable with spontaneity, which makes Virgo Lagna natives cautious in love, reserved in artistic expression, and often delayed or burdened in parenthood. Saturn rules both the fifth and sixth houses, two domains that influence children and work, and being naturally averse to reproduction and indulgence, Saturn's influence often results in difficulty with having or relating to children. It can also signal disappointment, distance, or loss connected to offspring. Creative intelligence here matures slowly but steadily, often through effort, criticism, or mentorship roles. Activation years 5, 17, 29, 41 bring turning points in romance, parenting, or intellectual investment, often with karmic weight or responsibility attached. Sixth house Aquarius, intellectual service and conflict through systems. Aquarius in the sixth house gives Virgo Lagna a unique disposition toward work and health. Ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Rahu, this house brings technological, system-driven, or reformist influence into daily duties. Saturn's rulership of both the fifth and sixth houses further entangles health, service, and progeny, often making the native health conscious but susceptible to chronic concerns. Virgo's analytical mind can thrive in the service or medical sectors, especially when routine and detail are vital. Rahu's influence may bring unpredictable health episodes or conflicts with unusual or foreign opponents. Activation years 6, 18, 30, 42 often highlight health restructuring, shifts in employment, or major karmic lessons in service and responsibility. Seventh house, Pisces, dreamy partnerships and emotional projection. Pisces in the seventh house introduces Jupiter's expansive, imaginative, and spiritual energy into marriage and one-on-one partnerships. For Virgo Lagna, the tension arises because Mercury, logical, rules the self, and Jupiter, philosophical, rules the other, creating disconnects in relationship styles. The native may attract partners who are idealistic, elusive, or emotionally consuming. There may be a deep desire for unity and love, but also a tendency to lose boundaries or be disappointed due to idealization. Since Jupiter also rules the fourth house, emotional security and romantic union are intertwined, making the native vulnerable to emotional imbalance if either domain suffers. Activation years 7, 19, 31, 43 bring major relationship events, marriage, separation, or shifts in how one defines intimacy and partnership. Eighth house, Aries, mental turbulence and karmic risk zones. Aries in the eighth house makes Mars the ruler of both the third, intellect and courage, and the eighth, death, loss, and secrets. Mars is the natural enemy of Mercury, the Virgo Lagna lord, making this a particularly volatile and risky house for Virgo natives. Mars here intensifies fears, hidden anger, and risk of accidents, especially to the head or by sharp objects. The connection between intellect, third house, and death, eighth house, creates a mind preoccupied with unusual or even morbid thoughts. This placement may incline one towards surgery, either professionally or personally, and often indicates a life of psychological intensity. Activation years 8, 20, 32, 44 bring themes of sudden transformation, psychological crisis, inheritance, or healing through facing inner volatility. Virgo Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 9 to 12. Ninth house, Taurus, practical belief systems and classical learning. Taurus in the ninth house brings Venus's grounded, beauty-oriented nature into the domain of dharma, higher learning, and long-distance travel. For Virgo Lagna, Venus is a mutual friend of Mercury, and as ruler of both the second and ninth houses, Venus connects wealth, values, and belief systems. The native is drawn to refined, classical philosophies, especially artistic, cultural, or traditional spiritual frameworks. There is an appreciation for art, ritual, and aesthetic systems of meaning. However, since Venus is debilitated in Virgo, the Lagna, emotions and spiritual yearnings may get filtered through intellect, making it hard to surrender completely to devotional practice. Activation years 9, 21, 33, 45 often bring significant travel, academic expansion, or mentorship experiences that challenge emotional and spiritual integration. 10th house, Gemini, versatile careers and intellect-driven karma. Gemini in the 10th house gives Virgo Lagna a karmic life driven by communication, analysis, writing, and intellectual agility. Mercury, as the Lagna and 10th lord, forms a strong identity-career linkage, making the native's personal intelligence and adaptability the core tools for professional success. The individual often excels in teaching, editing, accounting, media, or technology. However, career fluctuations may occur due to overthinking or scattered interests, especially if Mercury is afflicted. Virgo, being the natural sixth house and Gemini the natural third, adds a layer of service-oriented communication and skill building. Activation years 10, 22, 34, 46, highlight major professional milestones, public recognition, or turning points in intellectual service. 11th house, Cancer, emotional bonds in social networks and gains through care. Cancer in the 11th house brings the moon's nurturing, intuitive nature to the house of gains, hopes, and friendships. Virgo natives may find emotional fulfillment through friend groups and humanitarian causes. Their networks often include maternal or nurturing figures, and emotional bonding is crucial to collaborative success. However, with the moon being fickle and Mercury being logical, the native may experience fluctuating trust in friends or find emotional needs at odds with rational goals. Gains come through caregiving professions, food, hospitality, or emotional intelligence. If the moon is afflicted, the native may struggle with instability in long-term desires or social circles. Activation years 11, 23, 35, 47 bring emotional highs or lows in friendships, unexpected financial rewards, or realizations about group identity. 12th house, Leo go dissolution and solar isolation. Leo in the 12th house introduces the sun, the planet of individuality and status, into the domain of loss, isolation, foreign lands, and liberation. The sun ruling the 12th creates a karmic script where the Virgo native is asked to surrender pride, self-importance, or leadership desires in order to grow spiritually. There may be periodic withdrawal from the world due to ego injuries, burnout, or the need for solitude. At times, the native may seek recognition even in private spaces or spiritual work. The sun also rules the 12th house of hospitals, and this placement reinforces Virgo's natural interest in healthcare and service to the sick. Activation years 12, 24, 36, 48 often bring spiritual retreat, foreign travel, ego transformation, or karmic discharge through acts of compassionate service. Capricorn Lagna Blank Chart Predictions Part 1, House Issues and Lifelong Themes, Houses 1 to 4. First house, Capricorn itself, the sea monster's ambition and slender resolve. Capricorn rising brings Saturn's disciplined, patient, and long-term oriented nature into the personality. The symbol of the Makara, a mythic sea monster, captures this ascendant's dual mastery over earth and water, symbolizing grounded ambition and emotional restraint. Capricorn Lagna natives tend to be long-bodied, lean, sometimes gaunt, and Vata-dominant in constitution. Saturn's rulership imbues the native with a serious disposition, slow but persistent energy, and deep focus on legacy and structure. However, Jupiter, the significator of wisdom and spirituality, is debilitated in Capricorn and rules the 3rd and 12th houses, both Dusthanas, leading to confusion or cynicism in spiritual matters and difficulties with early learning or faith. Activation years 1, 13, 25, 37 often mark identity crises tied to self-worth, career pressure, or inner conflict between conservatism and ambition. Second house, Aquarius, reserved speech and socially conscious wealth. Aquarius in the 2nd house brings Saturn and Rahu's cold, socially driven energy into the house of speech, food, and family lineage. Capricorn natives tend to be economical in speech, often communicating with gravity and minimalism. They are more focused on long-term security than indulgence and may lean toward money-mindedness or frugality. As Saturn rules both the Lagna and the 2nd house, this creates a self-reinforcing loop of self-discipline and delayed gratification. They often gain wealth through institutions, research, or group-based endeavors. However, an over-reliance on financial planning can make them appear stingy or overly cautious. Activation years 2, 14, 26, 38 bring key turning points in savings, family values, or public reputation based on vocal expression. Third house, Pisces, idealistic siblings and imaginative communication. Pisces in the 3rd house brings Jupiter's expansive, emotional, and mystical nature into the realm of communication, courage, and siblings. Capricorn natives may express themselves poetically or philosophically, but with underlying restraint. Communication is used carefully, and when trust is earned, they may share deeply. The 3rd house of courage becomes softened by Pisces, resulting in hesitation in bold actions unless supported by their factors. Sibling relationships may be emotionally important, but also complicated by differing values. Jupiter here rules both the 3rd and 12th houses, which links courage with spiritual retreat or karmic dissolution, often making Capricorn natives reluctant warriors who speak after contemplation. Activation years 3, 15, 27, 39 bring sibling karma, publication opportunities, or creative pursuits that bridge intuition and logic. Fourth house, Aries, ambition in real estate and inner restlessness. Aries in the fourth house places Mars in charge of home, mother, and emotional security. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, the Lagna, and also rules the 11th house, indicating that gains may come through property, but not without inner dissatisfaction. Mars being a fiery, aggressive planet in the emotional house creates an unsettled or disrupted early home life. Saturn, Lagna Lord, is debilitated in Aries, suggesting difficulty connecting with family roots or inherited values. There may be conflict with the mother or a strong desire to leave one's birthplace to build success elsewhere. Capricorn natives are often emotionally driven to construct material strongholds, homes, lands, legacies, but may not find true peace in them. Activation years 4, 16, 28, 40 bring major shifts in emotional identity, family karma, or real estate gains tied to inner agitation. Capricorn Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 5 to 8. Shiv 5th house, Taurus, steady creativity and affectionate parenting. Taurus in the 5th house brings Venus's sensual, earthy influence into the realms of creativity, romance, and progeny. For Capricorn Lagna, this results in a dependable, loyal, and practical approach to love and parenting. While they may not be flamboyant romantics, they are often deeply affectionate with their children and tend to invest consistently in their development. Venus is the lord of both the 5th and 10th houses, linking creativity and public karma, suggesting that their artistic or speculative efforts can translate into career success. However, if Venus is poorly placed, there may be possessiveness or emotional rigidity in romantic life. Activation years 5, 17, 29, 41 often highlight romantic karmas, artistic contributions, or parenting cycles that influence long-term goals and professional image. 6th house, Gemini. Strategic conflict and mental overexertion. Gemini in the 6th house brings Mercury's dual, intellectual energy into the domain of service, health, and enemies. For Capricorn Lagna, this placement leads to clever, tactical thinking in dealing with opponents, as well as sharpness in problem-solving at work. Since Mercury also rules the 9th house, luck and dharma, there's a karmic connection between righteousness and daily effort. The native often thrives when their service is tied to higher principles or teaching. However, excessive overthinking can lead to nervous disorders or burnout. This combination may result in dual jobs or roles and a strong ability to negotiate complex workplace dynamics. Activation years 6, 18, 30, 42 bring significant changes in work habits, health regimes, or litigation outcomes, often resolved through intelligence and adaptability. 7th house, Cancer. Sensitive partners and emotional turbulence in marriage. Cancer in the 7th house brings the moon's emotionally fluid and nurturing energy into the area of partnerships and public-facing relationships. Capricorn Lagna natives tend to attract partners who are sensitive, caring, or emotionally intense, but may themselves find it difficult to reciprocate on the same emotional wavelength. Since Saturn and the moon are natural enemies, this combination brings internal conflict between the desire for structure and the need for emotional closeness. Relationships often involve emotional cycles, mood-driven highs and lows, or challenges balancing logic with empathy. If the moon is strong, the native may enjoy a fulfilling marriage with someone who supports them deeply. If afflicted, emotional volatility in the partner may lead to long-term strain. Activation years 7, 19, 31, 43 bring important relationship milestones, public alliances, or karmic lessons through emotional vulnerability. 8th house, Leo, hidden ego and the power to transform through control. Leo in the 8th house places the sun, planet of ego, soul, and identity, into the domain of death, transformation, and secrets. For Capricorn Lagna, this suggests intense personal growth through ego breakdowns, psychological exposure, or crises that reshape their self-perception. The native is often driven by a hidden desire for authority and may try to control environments from behind the scenes. Since the sun rules the 8th house and is a neutral to Saturn, there's an uneasy tension here. The Lagna craves structure, while the 8th house demands surrender and transformation. This placement gives an interest in occult sciences, power dynamics, and legacies, often with inheritance or taxes being part of the native's journey. Activation years 8, 20, 32, 44 bring intense periods of psychological rebirth, financial restructuring, or secret revelations that change life direction. Capricorn Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes. Houses 9 to 12. Ninth house, Virgo, practical philosophy and duty-oriented belief. Virgo in the ninth house brings Mercury's analytical, structured, and service-driven qualities into the domain of dharma, higher learning, mentors, and long-distance journeys. Capricorn Lagna natives often hold rational, methodical belief systems and may shy away from dogma in favor of logic-based spirituality or ethical frameworks. Since Mercury also rules the sixth house, conflict, duty, there can be a karmic pattern of learning through service, suffering, or repetition. They are often drawn to fields like medicine, law, or scholarship, where reason meets morality. There may be a tendency to overanalyze or intellectualize faith, sometimes missing the emotional or devotional side. Activation years 9, 21, 33, 45 bring travel, educational expansion, or philosophical reorientation tied to karma, work, or legal processes. 10th house, balanced authority and harmonious public image. Libra in the 10th house brings Venus's grace, charm, and social skill into the domain of career, karma, and public reputation. For Capricorn Lagna, this is a powerful placement. Venus is a yoga karaka, ruling both the 5th, creativity, intelligence, and 10th, profession houses. This allows for careers in diplomacy, law, finance, design, or any field that blends aesthetics with structure. The native is often respected for their calm, fair demeanor and leadership roles. However, as Venus is also associated with pleasure and indulgence, there's a potential to rely too much on charm over strategy, especially if Venus is afflicted. Public image is important to this Lagna, and they often balance seriousness with beauty. Activation years 10, 22, 34, 46 bring career elevations, creative expansions into public domains, or major status shifts tied to visibility and values. 11th house, Scorpio, intense ambitions and secretive social circles. Scorpio in the 11th house places Mars, also the ruler of the 4th house, into the domain of gains, friendships, and larger aspirations. Capricorn Lagna natives approach goals with strategy, obsession, and focus, often keeping their ambitions private until fulfilled. They may attract powerful, emotionally intense friends or collaborators, but may also face betrayals or emotional drama in social networks. Mars here gives strong willpower to attain long-term objectives, but can also produce a ruthless edge in group settings or alliances. Since the 4th and 11th houses connect, emotional satisfaction is often tied to recognition and influence. Activation years 11, 23, 35, 47 bring pivotal shifts in income, friend circles, or long-term desires, often under themes of power, secrecy, or regeneration. 12th house, Sagittarius, restless solitude and karmic learning through movement. Sagittarius in the 12th house brings Jupiter's expansive, spiritual, and travel-loving qualities into the realm of losses, hidden worlds, and liberation. For Capricorn Lagna, this creates a paradox. Jupiter is debilitated in the 1st house but governs their subconscious domain. This can result in inconsistent spiritual practice or philosophical confusion, particularly when ideals are not grounded in experience. At the same time, Jupiter's rulership offers redemption through learning, travel, or isolation. The native may be drawn to ashrams, libraries, or distant lands as sources of peace. There's a karmic thread connecting suffering and wisdom. Loss becomes the teacher. Activation years 12, 24, 36, 48 bring spiritual retreat, emotional release, foreign relocation, or deep philosophical reckonings related to solitude and surrender.